Yesterday, in just the latest of an ever-long flurry of roster movement from the Kansas City Chiefs, Brett Veach reportedly released LaMichael Pirine from his contract. Now, yesterday I went through a 16-ish minute video where I talked about what I think that might mean for the Kansas City Chiefs, what I think the Kansas City Chiefs might do with that additional roster spot, etc. And I tried to take that video in some places that may or may not be the common talking points for when a player gets released. But today, in light of that move, I thought that it might be interesting to sort of sit down and look at the running backs on the roster currently in the order that I am projecting that they will be slotted. Does that make any sense? This is the order that I think these running backs will be placed coming out of OTAs, possibly going into camp. I do think that we are likely to see a good deal more roster moves. I don't think that Brett Veach is done yet. But as for looking at the individual running backs involved in this race for the Kansas City Chiefs, let's get started. So here is the current Kansas City Chiefs depth chart at the running back position, at least as far as I am projecting it. Here we have listed the name, height, weight, age, and 40-yard dash time for all 8 remaining of the Kansas City Chiefs running backs. Of course, Rees-Zammit is from Liechtenstein, so his 40-yard dash is in meters per second. It's a little bit of a tricky conversion rate, but I mean, we do the best we can with what we have. Isaiah Pacheco, obviously the number 1 running back for this team, despite the fact that he still has not crossed the 1,000-yard barrier as a rusher in either of his first 2 seasons. I do not think that there is any argument for any other of these running backs to overtake Isaiah Pacheco, though it is interesting to dig into some of the lesser-known statistics and see that he arguably had a less efficient year as a second-year running back than he did in his first season, though overall, I thought that he was more effective, even if his yards per attempt, success rate, and etc. ended up going down on a numbers basis. Interesting to note that Isaiah Pacheco will be entering the 3rd year of a 4-season rookie contract with the Kansas City Chiefs. It is difficult at this point to project what Brett Veach will do at the running back position. In my opinion, it will be difficult to project what Brett Veach does at the running back position until he makes a decision on Nick Bolton. This might sound like 2 things which are not related, but largely, middle linebackers and running backs have a similar type of positional value. So if the Chiefs do end up re-signing Nick Bolton to a long-term contract, we might see the same for Isaiah Pacheco. It is worth noting as well that the Nick Bolton season is the same season that the contracts for Trey Smith and Creed Humphrey will come due, so there is going to be some money on the books. Second here, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I have him tentatively listed as the second running back. Brett Veach said that the battle for the number 3 running back on the roster is wide open, that there are no favorites, that he is willing for, or I think that he intimated that the coaching staff is willing to have any of these names emerge as that 3rd running back on the roster. I, however, am not sold. While I believe that the position of 3rd running back on this roster is wide open, I'm not convinced the number 2 running back for this team is not wide open. Clyde signed a 1-year, $1.7 million deal this past offseason in order to return to the Kansas City Chiefs, a team with whom he has won 2 Super Bowl rings, but only $1.125 million of that contract is guaranteed, meaning that if he is cut, the Kansas City Chiefs save $600,000 against the salary cap. That's not a huge number. But if, for example, Deneric Prince overtakes him as the number 2 running back, Deneric Prince costs $915,000 this season. Remember, Deneric Prince was signed as a UDFA, so despite the fact that this is just his second season in the NFL, his contract did not have to abide by the rookie wage scale. So, if your first 2 running backs are Isaiah Pacheco and Deneric Prince, do you want to be paying your third running back $1.7 million like you were paying Clyde Edwards-Helaire, or would you rather pay your third running back $985,000 like you would be with Keontae Ingram? I am also noticing, as I look at the screen, I think I misspelled Keontae Ingram's name. I think I have misspelled Keontae Ingram's name every time I have typed Keontae Ingram's name. There is a Keaontay, the rare silent A. But beyond the pay scale, Andy Reid and company seem to be very content to take the sort of conservative route when it comes to the backups on the team, the guys that they know can step on the field and do the things. So I think that regardless of the dollar amount, I think that regardless of how well Deneric Prince, Keontae Ingram, Carson Steele, etc. perform, I think probably Clyde Edwards-Helaire is on this team. I'm not sold on it, and I'm not sold that he's the number 2 running back for sure, but I think odds are that is the case. I have listed right now third on the depth chart Deneric Prince. The potential that we saw last year was just too much. The guy is big, he is fast, he is strong, and he looks really good running routes. Is he able to pass block? That will make all the difference. And it's easy to forget in light of this recent draft where we got several players after the draft that Brett Veach has already come out and said they had draftable grades for the Kansas City Chiefs. But there were a lot of places that had Deneric Prince with a draftable grade. I thought that he was a player who was going to get drafted based strictly on his measurables, a 4.41 40-yard dash, that is 91st percentile, a 1.53 10-yard split, 83rd percentile, 35.5-inch vertical is a decent number. 3-cone drill of 6.97 is a 67th percentile. But again, with that number, you're looking at guys who decide to run those drills, and you don't run those drills unless you're going to have a very, very good number. He put up a 124-inch broad jump, which is 84th percentile, and 18 reps on the bench press, which is not otherworldly, but it's still a solid performance. In my opinion, Deneric Prince is a guy who will be able to run the ball between the tackles, much in the way that Isaiah Pacheco does. He has a similar, he doesn't really have a similar running style to Isaiah Pacheco, but he has the same type of mentality when running the ball that does Isaiah Pacheco. And you can't say because it didn't happen in a game, I know, but he looked really good out of the backfield last preseason. And if that translates to the field, it is the type of skill set that can be game-changing for an offense. Next, I have Keontae Ingram. In my opinion, this area of the depth chart, sort of Deneric Prince, Keontae Ingram, Carson Bailey, Hassan Hall, this is kind of what made La'Mical Perine expendable. Keontae Ingram is just a really solid running back type prospect. He's not particularly good at anything, but he does not at the same time have any glaring weaknesses. He was a 6th round pick of the Arizona Cardinals. He has 62 carries, 134 yards, and a 2.2 yard average. So while he does a lot of things kind of okay, apparently there's nothing there that he's doing very well enough. Now, all of those stats were accumulated with the 2022-2023 Arizona Cardinals. and that would have been a tough row to hoe. Right now, I have him as the fourth running back based strictly on experience because I think those next two guys, Carson Steele and Imani Bailey, are very intriguing. Now, with those guys, you don't have the same type of measurables that you have with Keontae Ingram, certainly that you have with Deneric Prince, and definitely not the same type of measurables that you have with Isaiah Pacheco. But Carson Steele there is a very large running back, 6 foot tall, 228 pounds. He is 21 years old. Brett Veach likes players that have coachable upside with age on their side as well. And you need look no further than the 2022 season at Ball State, where he had 289 carries for 1,556 yards and a 5.4 yard average, adding on 14 touchdowns for the Ball State Cardinals. Meanwhile, Imani Bailey is not a thumper in the style of Carson Steele. He is more of a Jerick McKinnon undersized. Jerick McKinnon wasn't quite undersized. Jerick McKinnon was actually sort of a dynamo. We went over his numbers, his 40-yard dash, bench press, etc. in the video that we did on Imani Bailey here on the channel, Imani Bailey UDFA. Anyway, Imani Bailey is that type of football player. Maybe not that type of athlete, but he is that type of football player. He's more of a slippery type. He is more of a sudden guy. He seems to definitely have potential as a receiver out of the backfield. That is what we're looking at with Imani Bailey. Then I have Hassan Hall. Hassan Hall, just listen to these numbers. Hassan Hall goes 6 foot, 192, depending on the day, depending on where you're getting these measurements, a 4.46 40-yard dash, a 1.58 10-yard split, a 37-inch vertical leap, a 10 foot, 10-inch broad jump, and 18 reps on the bench press. Hassan Hall is a guy that definitely has some of the measurables necessary to play at the NFL level. But I'm going to spend a second reading you verbatim what we get from Wikipedia on his career tab. Cleveland Browns. After not being selected in the 2023 NFL Draft, Hall signed a contract with the Cleveland Browns worth $125,000 guaranteed as an undrafted free agent. He was waived on August 29th and re-signed to the practice squad. He was released from the practice squad on September 26, 2023, Arizona Cardinals. On November 1st, so from September 26th to November 1st, he was not in the NFL. On November 1st, Hall was signed to the Arizona Cardinals practice squad. He was then released on November 6th. New York Giants, on November 7th. 7th, 2023, the New York Giants signed Hall to their practice squad. He was released on November 21st. He did just a few weeks with the Giants after spending just 5 days with the Cardinals, after spending just one preseason with the Browns. Kansas City Chiefs. On January 10th, so from November 21st to January 10th, 2024, Hall signed a reserve, or from November 21st to January 10th, he was unemployed. Hall signed a reserve's future contract with the Kansas City Chiefs. That brings us all up to date with Hassan Hall. Whatever it is that Hassan Hall is doing, it is not working thus far at the NFL level, and no one has had to take very much time to figure that out. This does not mean that he is without merit at the NFL level. The one embarrassing stop along the way was the Arizona Cardinals. What it would be that you could do in 5 days in a single locker room to get yourself the ixnay, I have no idea. But that franchise at the time, in Hassan Hall's defense, was in a lot of turmoil. So it might just be they were bringing guys in, giving them a physical, seeing what they could do on the field, making them run a couple routes, shipping them out of town. I have no idea. And finally, Rees-Zammit of the Rhine Fire. Now, there is much conjecture that Rees-Zammit is actually being signed predominantly to participate on special teams. Maybe that's the case. I do not know. This new kickoff rule is going to be interesting, to say the least. So perhaps that is what's going on there. And if that is the case, then he has a much better chance of making the roster even than Keontae Ingram. I do not know, so I will not say. What I will question and or conjecture is, if Rees-Zammit can return those kickoffs, why couldn't a guy like Deneric Prince? A guy like Deneric Prince, who Andy Reid had said just last offseason, or maybe it was Dave Toub, I can't remember. Dave Toub would make more sense, but said just last offseason that Deneric Prince was very much in the contention for returning kickoffs. Overall, it is just very difficult for me to believe that a guy coming from the rugby league can come into the NFL and really be productive. Is it possible? Absolutely. Might he do it? Of course he might. I, however, do not know what that looks like, so I cannot project it. Anyway, guys, that's the depth chart as far as I think it's going to go heading into OTAs. Will the Kansas City Chiefs sign another running back? Will there be more cut before we ever see the Chiefs on the field? That much is yet to be seen, but let me know in the comment section below what you think the running back depth chart will really look like. That's all I have for this video. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Kansas City Chiefs are indeed the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. So consider hitting that subscribe button in order to stick around for more Chiefs-based content in the future. And as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.